America's leading infectious disease expert warns of a disturbing surge in COVID-19 cases in parts of the country.
Right now, the next couple of weeks are going to be critical in our ability to address those surgings that we're seeing.
England's most significant easing of restrictions yet. People will soon be able to go to pubs, stay in hotels and visit hairdressers and cinemas. Remembering the life of Rayshard Brooks, funeral services are held for the African-American man shot dead as he fled police in Atlanta. Now, in Atlanta, the funeral has taken place of Rayshard Brooks, an African-American man shot dead by police in a confrontation 2 weeks ago. His killing, following that of another black American, George Floyd, provoked weeks of protest by anti-racism campaigners. On Tuesday, President Trump called the protesters vandals and anarchists and promised to reinforce the law to protect statues and monuments.
Long-term jail sentences for these vandals and these hoodlums and these anarchists and agitators, and call them whatever you want. Some people don't like that language, but that's what they are.
Novak Djokovic tests positive for coronavirus as pictures emerge of him dancing at a party during a much criticised tennis tournament in Croatia.
Novak Djokovic apologises after testing positive for coronavirus. The world number one is the latest tennis star to be diagnosed with COVID-19 after playing at a tournament he had organised himself.
North Korean leader Jong Un has suspended plans for military action against the South. State media says he made the decision at a meeting of the Central Military Commission. His sister Kim Jo-young gave orders to the army to be ready for action over a week ago. Pyongyang has been escalating threats against Seoul, angered over a cross-border leafleting campaign by defectors who've been dropping leaflets from balloons.
The FBI says Bubba Wallace was not the victim of racism, despite the noose found in his NASCAR team's garage. Opening up and getting closer, England relaxes social distancing to get the economy moving. We look at the science behind the new rules.
We can now make life easier for people to see more of their friends and family and to help businesses get back on their feet and people back into jobs.
As Brazil struggles to cope with the pandemic, a judge orders the president to wear a mask in public. German authorities are bringing back local lockdown measures in response to an outbreak linked to a meatpacking plant. The premier of the North Rhine-Westphalia state said restrictions will return to a district home to about 360,000 people. It's the first time Germany has reversed lockdown easing. It started to be lifted in May. Peru's government says at least 223 police officers have died of COVID-19. Most of them contracted the virus as they tried to enforce quarantine. Peru has the second highest number of deaths in Latin America after Brazil. Saudi authorities are saying only around 1,000 worshippers will be allowed to take part in this year's Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca. They've been giving more details. They announced yesterday it will be dramatically scaled back because of the pandemic. Worshippers will be drawn from various nationalities, but they will all already have to be resident in Saudi Arabia. Stay with us if you can. Much more to come, including this. A fine balancing act. These Swiss acrobats are staying in business during the pandemic.
As England prepares for a major easing of lockdown restrictions, senior medics warn urgent action is needed to make sure the UK is prepared for the real risk of another coronavirus outbreak in the winter.
With just 10 days to go, there's still no detailed safety guidance for many businesses in England, which are expected to reopen.
We'll be live in Manchester to find out what your local boozer might just look like when it welcomes you back for that first pint since lockdown began.
Many in the tourism industry will be happy to have that reopening day. I'm on Blackpool Beach's comedy carpet, looking at whether laughter, sunshine and love from returning tourists will be enough to keep businesses happy.
Hibernation at an end. That's the headline on many of the front pages. This is the Times for you this morning. It focuses on the relaxation of the lockdown in England, as James has been talking about, which will see pubs, restaurants and hairdressers reopen after 3 months.
Sorry, I want to interrupt you. I was so excited. The Guardian says the scientists who were with Boris Johnson at the final daily Downing Street briefing, you may have watched it, sounded notes of caution, with Professor Chris Whitty saying the move was not risk-free.
Front of the Express says the Prime Minister has given the nation some much-needed cheer with the easing of measures, though it does say the virus is still a risk.
And the Scotsman's front page looks at possible changes being made in Scotland schools, with the paper suggesting social distancing could be scrapped for pupils.
How do you feel about the end of the daily briefing? Has it been an important part of your life? That's it, isn't it?
It's an interruption to my sporting activities.
Yeah. I think I'll miss it. I think Chris Mason was adding them up. He says we've had about 90. I think he said 92 we've had.
Well, we would have, because it's been 92 days then, hasn't it?
So, but it might return. They did
say that they might be back, didn't they? Should we look? So there's so much detail to go through about what's being eased and also what isn't as well. And there's lots of concern amongst people who own and go to gyms and pools. Swimmers, and this is one example, and this is from the Times actually. Jane Nickerson, who's chief executive of Swim England, said it appears that it's OK to sit on the couch watching professional sport, go out for a high-calorie meal and then go to the pub, but you can't go for a swim, which provides a sanitised environment. Gym operators also really concerned about this, and this is from Pure Gym. Saying we understand these decisions aren't easy, but it's a strange war on obesity that sees pubs and restaurants open before gyms. Weddings, lots of people, of course, will not have been able to have weddings. Yep. Weddings are allowed. 30 guests at services. From July the 4th, churches, mosques and synagogues will reopen for prayer and services, but they have to have social distancing. And if you're having a wedding, you can't sing hymns at the service because scientists are concerned it carries an increased risk of transmitting coronavirus.
That's going to be a big miss.
And that's also, you can open a theatre, but you can't have a live performance.
Yeah, I was just reading about that.
So many things.
Lots of the papers are sort of running you through all the things that you can do and you can't do. We're speaking to the actor Julie Hesman-Holsch a little bit later on about that situation in theatres. You can show pre-recorded programmes, can't you? But there's no live performances, and obviously everybody in there has to social distance as well. We're got an interesting sort of take on gyms, because I know lots of people are asking when gyms are going to be able to open. Tim Muffitt's been to see one that's got everything ready, but still unable to go. Talking about the virus as well, Sally's going to be looking at this morning. This tennis tour, which is organised by Novak Djokovic. So it was sort of taking place half of it in Serbia and some in Croatia, and now 6 people, including Djokovic himself, have tested positive for the virus.
And it's sort of a fulsome explainer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And there's been pictures of him playing basketball with Gregor Dimitrov, who's also contracted the virus, and dancing topless in a nightclub. So I think slight misjudgment there, and like you say, a real serious apology, which Sally's going to be looking at a bit later on.